Hi folks, followers, friends of Theben. Warm welcome to our interesting webinar today. My name is Alma. I'm Head of Technical Support and Training, and I will convene you through the next heading. We are approximately 40-45 minutes, and hopefully you will stay with us for this rather interesting topic here, DALI Room Solution. What does it mean? You know, I'm pretty sure you know, that Theben is supporting the KNX market since many years with reasonable DALI gateways, supporting 64 switchgears or 128 switchgears, adjustable or controllable or settable, however you want to name it, the devices with browser-based solution or within the ATS or the DCA, however. Rather simple to communicate or to customize. Supporting all of them, data point 8, so all the reasonable things for tunable wide, for RGB wide control, or for HCL control, however, we support. And by the way, data secure. Since around the year 2000, we do support the DALI market with rather nice, powerful and rather sensitive sensors talking DALI. This one, probably you know. You will see later on some more of these sensors, which we can use to extend the detecting area of our solutions. And there was a gap, and this gap we wanted to fill up. And this is DALI Room Solution, an addressable solution for DALI. So what we want to do in the next couple of minutes, we want to give you a reasonable insight in terms of what we can do, what we can support, and what is DALI Room Solution in our understanding. So first of all, a few less words around. So with DALI-2 Room Solution, we support tunable wide, RGB wide. We do support HCL control, however, and furthermore, time functions, scenes, and so on. You will see, you will discover furthermore later on. So it is a powerful tool based on DALI-2 addressable solution. But there is another, let's say, solution which is called DALI Broadcast. And what is the difference in between? So let's imagine, so DALI Broadcast means you have one single control source which is giving to all the lights which are affiliated, which are wired on the DALI communication lights, which are 2 wires. And all the wired lights and so on are following exactly the command coming, for instance, from a DALI sensor. Imagine broadcast like in the school. Teacher is asking the children early morning, stand up, welcome you. And so all of them are listening, all of them hopefully are acting like asked for. And so sit down, so that means, this means switch on the light, switch off the light, or control the light, however. So one command to all, and all are following the commands accordingly. When it comes to the addressable solutions of DALI, this is slightly different in terms of the commissioning, in terms of the wiring. You will have slightly differences. In terms of wiring, same. You just address it, you just link it to the DALI light and the DALI communication wires. You need, in both cases, a power supply. Just all in all, overall. So then, the commissioning, with addressable light, so you have now the differences or the choice finally to address each individual lights in a room as a light group. You can use these different lights to use it for a scene, to call up a scene, however. You can configure it, and for that purpose you need the commissioning process. You have to talk to each light. You are part of the group 1, you are part of group 2, or whatever. And this is the difference to the broadcast. Broadcast is mentioned all. Addressable light you can select however you like it. and the replacement in regards of. So when we talk about broadcast and there is a light broken, you have just to open the wiring, replace the light, install again, and that's it. There is no additional work to do. When it comes to the addressable light, and there is a light broken as an example, so in this case, depends on if it's just a single light, you just replace a single light and the deal is done. If you have more than one light, which is defective, so then either you do it one by one, so the replacement, replace the first one, start the system again, and then you replace the second one and start the system again, so then you have nothing to commission, however. If you do all together, then there is a need to do another commissioning. You have to address this light again to the several groups that they know, the new ones know finally where they belong to. In regards of the wiring, especially when it comes to sensors, just sensors, not masters or controllers. So when it comes to sensors, you discover here an example, sensor 1, sensor 2. We do have here a master sensor. You see how the wiring looks like. It's just you loop the DA, so which means DALI, communication wires. You loop it just in the system and that's it. And all these and furthermore are supporting you as sensors for DALI. All they and a few more do have just the feature, they are sensors. They just detect people, movement, however, and give the trigger on the DALI wire here to the system. And the master, the controller, finally decides if he has to act or not, if he has to dim or not, or if he has to start the constant light control or not. They just support with the trigger, sharing triggers with you. Yeah, by the way, so this beautiful sensor here, this is the brand new sensor, which is the DALI-2 HCL sensor, which is the controller, the master, however you like to name it. This sensor is good enough to give you 3 different light measurings. So that means, first of all, directly underneath. Then heading to, let's assume, the inner side of the room. This one sensor is measuring towards the window side. And so you can totally independent control 3 different light sources, finally, as you like. This sensor gives you 24 meters of detecting area in the round, so which is, as a summary, around 490 square meters, roughly, which is really powerful. And what you need furthermore, you need the software to do the configuration, to do the addressing of the reasonable light sources. And this software and the app, if you intend to control or to do the assignment, the configuration with the app, so then App Store, Play Store, however, and with this we can later on configure the reasonable lights. I will show you how it works. Yeah, a few less data we need to share with you, which means finally we do have 3 lights, but in total we can give 4 of these light channels or light sources on the ceiling. However, we can modify, set up, or do the modifications with the reasonable app. We support in our system 4 push-button interfaces. We support 4 relays. Finally, all in all, we can extend this entire system, this room-based system, with 5 additional sensors, like I was talking currently about. In total, we can switch, dim, constant light control, standby. We can support you with tunable white, with HCL, for instance, with RGB or RGW, for instance, can adopt the dimming curve, linear, logarithmic, whatever. If you like, you want to operate, to override manually, manual operation, semi-automation, whatever, it's your choice. We can do the reasonable setup. The sensor is smart enough to manage short-term presence, so that means you just hop in, grab some which you have forgotten for your meeting, and you hop out and immediately are chasing away. So that means we reduce actively the reasonable delay time in order to save the reasonable energy for you, for your money, right? Yeah, and there are furthermore, let's say, options in terms of, let's say, teaching of the brightness or whatever. For this case, you need a reasonable app to do these modifications finally. Communication is Bluetooth on board, so which facilitates finally the commissioning, which facilitates finally the modification, the setup of the reasonable, let's say, details, however. And you can do the sensitivity, you can adjust if you like, if needed, however. This is finally possible. Yeah, the push-button interfaces, so just to give them a face, I can introduce here. So this one is the push-button interface. You see here the wiring, and then anytime you can link here, you can wire here the reasonable push buttons. Here you discover the real relay. There is just DA communication, so that means DALI communication. Here is relay output. The relay is good enough for 13 amps of power, switching power. Here you discover one of these DALI-2 sensors, and here you discover finally the reasonable terminals, and all in all you have just to loop this through. So that means the commissioning, the wiring is rather easy and rather fast to be done. Yeah, and you have the choices finally in regards of the designing. Can adjust if you want to have normally open, normally closed. In some cases, okay, it's there is a reasonable demand. In regards of the power, of the switching power of the relay, we put there a specific technique inside to avoid, let's say, the damages because of or due to the inrushes of, for example, LED lights. So we have a high inrush rating in this relay. And this relay is acting according to the DALI standard as well, to the IEC 62386 part 102. So that means we can use it wherever we like it. Third-party devices, really good question. Yeah, is it possible to integrate in our system? Yes, we can. Why not? If these third-party devices are supporting or are respecting the DALI-2 communications and certification standards, so then anytime you can integrate third-party devices in our system. Why not? So let's have a short look into the specifications you discover here. So okay, we are a manufacturer, and the products of us are based on DALI-2 standard. It is a single room solution finally. You can integrate it. You can integrate into the system HDL, tunable white, RGB, and further on. You can start, stop these functions with a reasonable time switch or time program or time management, however you want to name it in the background. We do have options to adapt the reasonable, let's say, color temperatures or the reasonable colors. However, all in all, we can choose or we can set up 4 different light sources to be managed finally. Then I think it makes sense to know about that new application areas are targeting especially the biodynamic light. This is meanwhile in a lot of focuses finally when it comes to manage lights in schools, in offices, even in hospitals. However, to get a good mood, to get a good recovery in terms of let's say your well-being. However, you get a good concentration. However, and it's simple to implement, to customize. However, this system is a good investment of security and in terms of the less efforts, the less time which you need to configure. So there is a less investment, that's what I mean with it. And so highly interesting for investors, for planners, and so on. Now I want to share some, let's say, some interesting applications, HCL for instance. So in a typical function or typical application finally of HCL is in offices to enhance finally the concentration. So according to the natural daylight, so we imitate the natural course of the daylight with the reasonable light fixtures on the ceiling. in order to make you more concentrated, yeah, to make you more focused on your work, however. And according to these softly, let's say, start into the day and softly fading out at the end of the day with these adopted colors, so like sunset, sunrise, you know what I mean? So this gives you a good option finally to come down, to calm down finally. And this is a high interesting part of HCL. It favors the well-being finally, it favors the concentration, the effectiveness at your work finally, healing processes in hospitals definitively due to this diurnal rhythm finally of the color. So how you have to imagine, and I think now you get it, yeah, so what is meant with it. So that means, so when the sun rises, look here, so then we do have a rather red light, yeah, at the beginning, like sunrise. Then when it comes to the noontime, so the light color turns more to this cold white, cold light finally. And when it comes to the end of the day, so it turns again to this red light sunsets. And this is good for the physics of your body, of the brain, however, to calm down at the end of the day as well. This would be used in conferences rooms, in offices, however. So like an example here, so we do have here a solution which looks like this. So we do have here some lights along the wall here and on top here. Then these lights could be, for instance, supporting us with reasonable colored lights, so probably the color of your trade company logo also. Then we do have here light source 2, like here, you see. Then we do have here light source L1 facing to the window side, however, so according to the natural daylight and how the light situation finally is, more facing window side or more facing in the inner side, so we can balance finally the reasonable light. Anytime you see here, you do have here the reasonable push button to override if you like. So this is how it could, for instance, look like. And this is how you can probably manage it, especially for the meeting rooms, so comfortable lights on, for instance, during the noontime, so there is a short break, however, so we reduce the brightness or we switch it off, or finally we control the light color down to a more relaxing color, however, so this can be controlled according to the season of the day, however. Yeah, then in terms of, let's say, teaching, learning, however, so during the classwork, yeah, so same stuff. Class designing could, for instance, like that. So we do have here on top, we do have here the window side, we do have here 3 light fixtures, and finally, so according to the natural daylight, we switch the reasonable light 1, light 2, light 3 on off. We do have here the whiteboard, however, and the sensor finally, and here we discover. So we do have here a sensor, we do have here different extensions to extend the detecting area. And according to this, we can do, for instance, HCL control as well. But the curve looks different. Early morning, so when the lesson starts, so we boost finally the students, however, with a cold light to get them up, to get them attentive. Yeah. And after a short while, we turn more to the relaxing colors, so more to the 3,000, 3,500 approx, so to calm the people down. After the lunch break, so again, we give a short booster, cold light to reactivate again. And then at the end of the lesson, during the end of the day, so then we dim it down, we control it down. What we are controlling down? The light color, exactly. Yeah, and another, and the last example, for instance, is the option finally for hospitals, for the good recovery. There you can use as well HCL. It is confirmed that according to the reasonable lights, the rhythm finally of the circadian lights has a positive impact on the recovery of the people, the patients finally. in a hospital. So what or how it can look like. So we do have here the window side. We do have here bit 1. We do have here bit 2 as an example. And we do have here another light fixture like here. And here we do have the main entrance. And with the support of this time management system in the background, we can do during the daytime this HCL light to get the people the reasonable, let's say, like the sun light, let's say this way, however. And during the nighttime, so we reduce the light or we switch it off. So upon the bed, anytime they have the option to override, sure. But during the nighttime, they are off. And during the nighttime, for instance, in this sector here, sector light 2, light 3 and light 4. So in this sector, for instance, we do have a specific orientation light. As an example, a 10% light, which is good enough to sleep, to get to sleep for these people here. But good enough as well if the nurse is popping in to look after the patient, however. So they have a good overview and a good reasonable light to discover. With the main switch here on top, anytime she can override, however. So such are solutions finally to support you and in the recovery. And here you see the template. We do have here plenty of templates finally in our app, which are prepared for your applications, but you can modify these templates as well if you like. Yeah, and now I think it's time to start to show up how the commissioning works. Be eager. So, well, now we start the practical exercise in our tutorial here. So, well, I have opened the DALI Plug software, which you get for free in the Play Store or in the App Store or on our webpage, however. Yeah, well, I've prepared some. So that means I do have here, let's say, a presentation or a project prepared. So you can do directly, actively. This we will do immediately. Or you can do the following. For instance, you can import an existing one. So, well, on the desktop, I do have here, for instance, a so-called high school project. So now you got it immediately. And if you do a double click, so you get finally a reasonable, let's say, project which is ready done in order to do some modifications, some adjustments or whatever. But we focus exactly on this one here. So that means we do have here a new project. We intend to do a setup for a specific room. So just to make you acquainted, you discover here just one room. It's just for our exercise, but if you do want more of these rooms, so you just click on the plus and then you can import a few other rooms. Or if you intend to do a setup for more than one floor, so you can click here and add some supplementary floors if you like. With a click on the plus, you deactivate if you want to rename. So just click on a pencil and then you can rename this one or you can rename this one however you like it. Okay, so we do a double click on that. So what we are doing now, so we are we try now to link to our master controller. Master controller means, you know, from the beginning. So this is our sensor, our Tironda HCL master sensor DALI. So he is currently flashing, so red and blue alternating, which means, okay, there is not done or not finished any, let's say, programming work. That's the blinking sequence giving us as a feedback. But what we can do firstly now, so we go back to the presentation. So we start to read the participants. Or, no, first of all, we have to open the master setup. So just to make you acquainted, Yeah, so all the details in regards of the settings and so on for these reasonable sensor, brightness, if you intend to do some time controlled functions, this you can do here in this and this icon. Yeah, let's read participants. Yes, so participants mean so what is affiliated to the reasonable project, to this sensor. So and then the master sensor, DALI HCL, is now searching or start searching finally what is affiliated, what kind of switch gears we do have, what kind of, let's say, lights, principal or push buttons or whatever are to be found in this DALI project. Okay, so, well, now this is already done. So just to give you a rough orientation, you discover here on top the switch gears. So this is a standard light, so just on, off or dimmable. However, this icon here gives you the intention, okay, this is tunable white, so warm white, cold white as an example, and this one is easy to discover. This is color control finally, so EVG switch gear, which is color control. Then we discover here there was a relay discovered in this project and a few of the push buttons. So where we have discovered some, and due to that I will give you the reasonable overview. So what we find finally here. So we do have here on top, here, here and here, we do have standard LED lights. We do have here and here tunable white lights, here and here we do have RGB lights. Then we do have a push button interface, which is here, and we use later on these 4 push buttons. And as well we do have a push button interface here with a reasonable, let's say, surface, so with a push button, however. And more or less that's it. Oh no, there is a relay with a reasonable, let's say, LED output, which gives us a feedback to that. So that means currently we do have non-programmable work done yet. So, but what we can do from this point of now, you discover here my remote, so which means I do have now the option to control all on or all off or vice versa. So what does it mean? This is broadcast function. So just if the discovery starts from the master unit and all these switch gears are implemented, so then broadcast functions work. So if I press a little bit longer, so we can dim down the lights as well. So you see, yeah, switching and dimming in broadcast mode is possible. So, but we want now to allocate, to do the grouping finally for our function. How we have to start. So first of all, so if you like, if you want to have a certain, let's say, orientation, so you can override on these 4 sides of your programming frame, which is front, which is window side, which is inner side. So it's up to you. So you can rename however you like it. Yeah, well, but now we come to the functions. Which functions we do have, you see listed here, different functions, and one by one we want now to implement in our project. So I take this one just by drag and drop. I put it in the middle of our programming frame. And for instance, this one is the interior light. Yes, we can leave it. The source of the light measurement, so is facing from the sensor to the interior light, to the inner side of the room, however. Yeah, and we want in this case to control just standard lights, on, off and dimmable. Yeah. So, okay, we confirm it by pressing OK. In total, we discovered, you remember, our board. Our board tells us, okay, we do have here these 3 lights, 1, 2, and 3. So these are standard lights. Due to that, you can reduce, for instance, these 5 in order to get a better overview to just 3 of them. We do need just 1 single push button as an example, and that's it for the moment. So then I just put one further light group into this programming frame, and this one is, for instance, the middle group or the middle light group, however you want to name it, however. And due to that, we have, for instance, the measuring of the daylight in the center. So the light, this middle light group, is working according to the light condition which we do find underneath the sensor, so in the center of the sensor. But in this case, the control selection has to be modified from standard, because this one now is tunable wide. This is exactly this line here, this one, and on this side here, exactly here. So this is tunable wide. Okay, we have to define. Again, we discover here, we do have here not 5, we do just have 2 of them, reduce them, and OK. Then we do need another light group, which is, for instance, window side, just as an example, and the light measuring is facing to the window. And, like mentioned, we want now to control colored LED lights, so we turn to RGB, and RGB we do have here and one on the other side, so that means as well we just need, in this case, just 2 of these, let's say, frames to do the allocation later on, however. Well, so this is the first base set. What you discover here with this icon, so the main setting of this light group here is to control color. The main setting on top here is tunable white, as an example, or on top without any, let's say, color ring, color frame around. So this is a standard light. So far so good. So if we do have the discovery now, we do have here a presence group. Presence group means we can now implement this one here, relay. So that means whenever someone enters a room, so person as example, so then, for instance, ventilation or such is starting according to your presence, if you like. Yeah. If you want to switch a fan manually, so then we can use, as an example, a so-called switching group. A switching group exists out of a switch and out of the relay, which we have to allocate finally. And I finish this now with a free group, for instance, or a free scene. And with this free scene, we can do later on call up specific temperature, color temperature, specific colored LED lights, however. And we do have another scene, which is the so-called group-orientated scene. This we will use later on as well. Probably you might have discovered, so there is some hopping from bottom to top and vice versa. If you want to, let's say, to rearrange the position of these functions, so with this icon, just keep the mouse hold down, and then you can allocate however you want to have this arrangement finally in a reasonable way. Okay, so far I think more or less self-explaining. So far so good. Okay, so and now how to do the programming finally, how I have to imagine. First of all, I have to inform or to update you. So if you intend, as an example, to control tunable white, so with static curve, so according to requirements for offices or for schools or for hospitals, however, so an automatical curve, which we do have in our software, and I make you acquainted with. So we call up just a template, so then there's no need to modify the color temperature. But if you intend to do so, then we need a second option, a second push button finally, and this we have to do here. So that means we call up here another push button, so a second one, save it, and what is the discovery for you? So we do have now 2 of these, let's say, icons here, frames, one for on-off and brighter darker, and one to modify later on the color temperature. So if we intend to control colors, So then again, so with this single frame, so we can on off or do the dimming reasonably. And if we intend to change the colors as well, so then we click on here and save, and then you have to discover, okay, we do have here two options as well. Two separate push buttons, which we can use for this specific, let's say, function. Okay, so now let's get started with the programming. And for that purpose, we need to click here on this Start DALI assignment. And then probably you will discover that we do have here a flashing light. And this flashing light tells me, okay, it's me now. Yeah. So where I want to allocate this. Okay, this is this one here. Then the next one is flashing. So you discover here on this side here. So this one is flashing. So it's a colored light. So I just have to click in this frame. Okay, done. So that means exactly now this light, the switchgear, gets a short address from the DALI system. Then a tunable white light is flashing. So it's this one exactly. Then the next one is flashing. This is here. And another one is flashing. This is the light on top. And we do have here another tunable white. And finally, last but not least, the LED is start flashing here. So this one is located now on that one. Then, out of the sudden, you discover probably we do have here this LED, which is now flashing. So that means now the relay, because the relay is a part of this function. So if we want to allocate this as well, so just click on that. And now, according to your presence in a room, so the fan will start, or this relay will start to drive the fan. Okay, almost done, almost. What is missing? The push buttons. Okay, so then let's get started with the programming as well. So now we have to go another way around. So that means we need now to press a push button, which gives me a feedback. So this one, for instance, if I click on that, again, so now you discover, okay, here on top, this is exactly the push button which is allocated to the DALI interface. And with this push button here, I want to drive, for instance, these lights. So that means we want to drive this one, we want to drive this one, and we want to drive this one. So what does it mean? This one is the central switch and the central dim push button. Next step. So now we want to control tunable white. Tunable white means we do need now, first of all, a push button which gives me finally the option to on off or to dim the lights. And for that purpose, I click now here on this side. Okay. Then on this side here, you discover here, we do have here now this push button here allocated. I click on here, so this is for the switch on and for the dimming. Now I go back to the panel and I take now the push button here below, so on the bottom line. Click on that, go back on this, and the discovery is we do have here now another one, and this we use finally to change the color temperature, so the light temperature. So far so good. So next step is finally, so I click on the panel again, so that means I take this one here, this on top here, so this one, then we do have here on that side. So this is exactly this push button here. We take this for the dimming. And then last but not least, we take the other one. So this one is exactly this one here. And back to the studio view. So then with this one, we can change, we can modify finally the colors. So at that stage, I stop for a moment. So that means we do have here finished the allocation. If I click on here, so we do have here the switching and the dimming. So far so good. If I click on that, so RGB color. So it's already preset, but you can adjust however you like it. But for our purpose, absolute, it is fine, but to double check, it makes sense to click on here and have a look inside. Here, and this one is tunable white, is okay so far. So, well, let's look here and double check in the export mode. We do need, this is tunable white. Well, it's selected in the right manner. Yeah, we do need not standard, we do need not RGB or RGBW. We need, for this purpose, in this light group, we need tunable white. So far so good. If you want, and this is some which is a little bit, which has to be explained. So when we call, or when we talk about HCL, human-centric light, means the light temperature changes according to the natural daylight. So early morning, so a warm red light. During the noontime, we do have a cold, a shining, cold, icy light. And in the afternoon time, finally, or in the sunset time, however, so then it turns again to the more red colors. If you want to have this automatism, so then you can call up a template. So either you can do some here in this template as a user-defined solution, so you decide finally how you want to have it. But if you want just to call up, for instance, a daylight course for the winter season or for the summer season, for instance, or if you intend, for instance, for school purposes, to call these up, so then automatically these tunable white lights here, for instance, will change the color temperature according to the time during the day. So as an example, we do have here, so at 8 o'clock around, so the lesson starts. So then we give a certain amount of, let's say, cold light, and this cold light finally shall booster the people. Yeah. After a short while, so it goes down to normal operation, so to calm the group, to calm the classroom. And during the lunch break, however, we reduce to, let's say, relaxing temperature color. And after the lunch break, so first of all, we boost with this high intensive blue light or icy cold light, because this motivates and concentrates people. And then we go to more the relaxing part back, however you want to have it. So just to make you acquainted what can be done. Okay, so this is done as well. And in regards of the color, we do have here, we do have here the option as well. In the export mode, we do have here RGB. And if you intend to control during the day in specific time frames, however, you can adjust the different colors. You can call up different colors, for instance. Yeah, so you want to have at 10 o'clock, you want to have green, then you turn more to the blue light. However, during the noontime, you want to have really cold blue, and further on, you got it immediately. However, and if you want to intend, for instance, to do the dimming, so that means to give a little bit more a brighter green, or let's say a reduced brighter green, however, so these you can adjust individually however you like it, either here or here in this table, however. So just to make you acquainted a little bit with all these functions. But furthermore, you will get in our, let's say, heading webinars, which we offer in the next, let's say, heading couple of weeks. So be eager and welcome to participate. Yeah, let's turn to our, let's say, demo panel. So that means we will see now what happens. So first of all, if I click on this one here, so then we can do switching, we can do the dimming. I think you can see a little bit, so there are some changes. And here we should be able to modify the color temperature more to the yellow part or more to the icy cold part of the light. However, probably the resolution of the camera gives you the reasonable feedback. Okay, cold and warm. So if we turn to this one here, this is color. Yeah, so I try, this is brightest, then I dim down reasonably. So probably you can discover now, so we do have here, it's due to the resolution of the camera, we do have here a reasonable good, let's say a green color, but we want to change this color now, and now with this one we can modify the reasonable color currently to our desires. If you relieve the push button and press again, so then the colors are changing in the other direction. However, you want to have it. Okay, you got me? So it works. So far, so good. So in the next step, we want to define some scenes. Basically, we have to distinguish between so-called free scenes and group-orientated scenes. What is the difference? Group-orientated scenes means you just set one value and put it on some switch gears, and all these switch gears will working according to this value. So call up, for instance, the same color or the same brightness or whatever. In a free scene, so you can allocate to different lights the reasonable values. So we will do now accordingly. So first of all, we have here to click on this pencil, enter the expert mode, and value 1, for instance, we want to have a colored light. So due to that, I go here to RGB. We want to have, for instance, here some red light, however. Then we open value 2. With value 2, for instance, I want to have another temperature or another color, which is a certain blue. And we choose the next one here, for instance. This could be value 3. In this case, it is a tunable white. The tunable white, we want to have one, for instance, as 6500K, and the value 4 is, as an example, the value just relaxing light on one, let's say, area in a room, however. Okay, so what does it mean? So this one we have adjusted to red, this to blue, this to icy cold, this one more to a relaxing color, and now how to allocate. So first of all, I take this one and put it upon the RGB light. So you see, this one is your feedback. Value 1 is located to this or allocated to this. Value 2, I take this one and put it upon this. So feedback, okay, this one got exactly this value. Then you remember this one, we do have here tunable white. I take this one, I put it here on one of these tunable white switch gears, and I take this one here with a more relaxing temperature color, and the deal is done. So what is missing now? So we need finally to have a push button. This we will do in a few seconds, and the push button has to be allocated as well exactly to this free zone. So when it comes now to this group-orientated scene means, like mentioned, we just have one value and we put it upon to a specific group of switch gears, of lights, however, and then all are working accordingly. So let's assume, so value 1 we do have. We want, for instance, to change the color from the different light color. So which is, for instance, let's see, blue, no, and let's take a green one as an example. Yes, like that. And confirming by pressing OK. And if I take now this value 1, so, and I put this upon both of them, so then both of them are affected by exactly this value, which should get finally as a result green. So, okay, like mentioned, now we need a push button to call these scenes reasonably up. So for that purpose, again, we start this DALI assignment, and for this purpose I use here these two push buttons. I think you can see down there in the presentation. So I click on that here, on that push button. So, and this one I link to here. I press on the next free available push button, which is this one, and I finish the group assignment. And then the reasonable push buttons are allocated, are linked to the reasonable groups finally to call them up. So, so almost deal is done. So it's rather simple and rather short in time to be programmed finally. Now it starts, the sensor starts up again. So for this case, let's say, take the big picture for the sensor. The sensor is currently giving you a violet color feedback, so the LED is flashing. So this is the identification. So now he is doing a startup, so measuring the brightness around and actualizing, so what has been modified here and so on. And after a few seconds, the sensor will finally give us a readback due to, let's say, the dimming down of the reasonable lights. So let's see if we are ready to do the reasonable test. For that purpose, I try to off the lights. It seems to be okay. So I off that, fine. So, and first of all, we do have here a scene. So now we do have here different colors. So we do have here the blue, we do have here the reasonable red, we do have here different color temperatures. Yeah. So the difficulty is finally the resolution of these of the camera which we are using gives you not the real, let's say, situation. Probably you can discover here it looks like it is a bit icy cold. This one here, due to the corona around, so this gives you an idea. It could be a little bit more the warm white color finally. If I click on this one here now and I call up now the reasonable scene, which is different, so now you discover there's some changes. And I do now the following. I dim down this and probably then we do get a better feedback in regards of the color. Okay, so now you get a better feedback here or specifically here on that side, so that we do have really modified the reasonable colors due to calling up the different scenarios. Okay, short and brief. Hopefully you get some fruitful and interesting insights, and we count on you. See you next time.